Welcome back, everyone, to Nature is Underrated. Your host here, Hassan. I'm here with my co-host, Ryan George. And we have explorer, adventurer, and co-founder of Driftwood Paddle, Chris Kelly, in the building. Today, we are going to just get into Chris's story. We're going to talk a little bit about our upcoming retreat. And yeah, I think... Retreats. Yeah, with an S. Yeah.
Got some treats to tell you about.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start is getting to know you, your story, how you got to Driftwood Paddle. And yeah, I think that's a good place to start. But I also want to talk about how we met, because I think that's a pretty cool story.
Cool. Yeah, 100%.
Let's get into it.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm insanely pumped to be here.
Yeah, man.
And I'm really stoked that you guys are doing this.
Thanks.
It's a good thing.
It is.
It's a great thing.
It's an amazing thing. So where do you want to start your story? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? When did you realize that your calling was what you're doing now, which is taking people into nature and teaching them and giving them skills to cope and reset themselves, kind of thing?
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a lifelong journey that I'm opening up to every day. And there's no specific time. I feel like I'm just continuing to walk my path and dive deeper in. I look at things like a road trip where, I know I'm heading somewhere, and some days it's, you get a flat tire.
Yeah.
But you ultimately know you just got to, figure it out. And there's opportunities that come with the tough stuff. I think Driftwood was born more so with travel, with that freedom that came from travel. Previous to travel, we spent a lot of time on the edge of Algonquin, my brother and I, Kieran, and, just really started to cultivate skills that we didn't even realize we were cultivating. It wasn't until bringing my friends up for my grade 8 birthday where I was just so comfortable, like getting in the water, running through the forest. And I noticed the difference, the dichotomy with their discomfort. And it was just basically lack of experience. And then traveling, utilizing those skills of stepping off the beaten path was massive. And ultimately coming home, previous to leaving, my brother and I spent a lot of time at our homestead because my folks would be up north and we'd have a free base to have parties and, be young men and just hang out. But when we came back, we both headed north without even talking about it. And so it was definitely calling. Guiding was an option, and there was other companies doing it. So we could join and learn about it. We could still feel like we were traveling, taking people into the backcountry, spending time with people for longer than 24 hours, which you might get that opportunity with a best friend staying overnight.
Yeah.
Spending time with complete strangers, families, different groups, strangers coming together was massive for us. And then realizing as things went on that we wanted to have our own vibe. And so 5 years after guiding for a couple different companies, we said, let's do this. Let's spread our wings. We were really supported by the company that we were previously working for. And now it's about getting people outside and understanding that there's a lot of wellness attributes to it. And testimonials coming through of like people making big decisions after these trips or on these trips, having a chance, like you said, to reset, to gain clarity over their life and to feel alive, like to see life as a deeper experience, to get below the surface. And like I said, it's every day I'm philosophizing about it. I'm getting excited about it. Driftwood is something that is a goal that's constantly conforming to my growth as opposed to me having to conform to this strict, steadfast goal. It's able to grow as myself and my brother grow.
Yeah. So you've always been into nature, I'm assuming. You said in the 8th grade was the first time you had like friends come up to Algonquin with you?
Yeah.
So you grew up in Algonquin?
So basically where Driftwood's located, my aunt and uncle bought property with nothing on it in 88, which is the year I was born. So I was up there.
Same.
Had a few months.
88, baby.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Nice.
Yeah. You're the young gun.
I'm the 90s baby.
Perfect. Yeah. We need that. Yeah, so I was up there just a few months old I don't know if we had the tent trailer at the time or my parents had like we called it the shag and wagon before. It had shag carpet on the roof, but we didn't even know what that meant at that age, you know? Yeah. And so right away, you know, exploring, getting dirty, getting into the water. My parents then bought in 96, just again, a blank piece of land. And so we had to like work the land, take some trees down.
Wow.
You know, it was like really marshy out front. And so like carving our own little place to make it more beachy. Yeah. So I've been going up there every summer and exploring. And then as like sleeping on the island in my teenage years where I would just like go out there and sleep in a sleeping bag around a fire.
Wow.
And
no tent.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
just like, yeah, just being, I feel like just like an intense urge, especially reflecting on it, to be like, I wonder if I can do that, or, you know, or even bringing the tent out, but then being like, oh, I can kind of see a nice little cozy groove in that rock, and like, just sleeping out there. I still have that sleeping bag with like little duct tape holes from where like sparks were hitting my sleeping bag.
Wow.
And exploring that way. And then I went to Europe in 2007. I came home, I think, you know, feeling more myself, more exploratory. I was like to my brother, I'm like, let's go into the park and like invite some friends. So we went back there with like my parents' old canoe. There's no yoke in it. So what a yoke is like how you carry the boat.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know. And so we're just like having all the gear in it. We're carrying firewood in, which is like a no-no because you don't want to transplant insects
outside. Yeah.
But we had no idea.
Yeah, you're just doing what you know.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Which is very little when you start.
Absolutely. Pretty much nothing, but the intention to get out there.
Yeah.
The best trip. We had so much fun. And just like reflecting again back, one of our friends, the dad's like, no, you can't go. And he like went to his dad, they're Portuguese. He's like, Dad, if you want me to be a man, you must let me go. You want me to be a man and you're not letting me be a man. Like, And then on trip, we're like carrying firewood on the second portage. He's like, I would give my pinky finger not to make the return journey. So like just those are transformational moments.
They
like,
are.
He's definitely not going to forget that. I don't forget it.
You'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I always tell people about like the backcountry trips is like, because there's like the struggle element of it, it also creates so many memories. And you never look back at the struggle, and you don't ever feel the emotions of the struggle. You actually feel the triumph. You never recall the actual struggle. Like I remember so many trips I've had where we were down bad, but I can't even recall the emotions.
No.
I can recall the great feeling of overcoming all of that and being like, oh my God, I'm so glad that that's behind me.
Definitely.
Kind of deal.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, like your buddy, like he would want to give his pinky finger, not to have to go back out.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I love. I love that. I love when
but
people
he became a man.
Yeah.
In that
But
moment.
he became
exactly. Yeah.
But that is, I mean,
the
sense of like that initiation almost, like doing something really intense to take you from boy to man.
Well, especially if you're like a city kid.
Yeah.
And you don't have to ever make a fire or make your own food or do everything's always done for you, right? It's especially like having an Eastern European background and coming, like, you know, my parents came from communist country, whatever. They didn't want us to have to like struggle like they did.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that experience, like, you know, going out, building fires, doing all those things. Everything was very comfortable.
Yeah.
So when you go to the backcountry after living in the city and having all that, you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is abuse.
Yeah. You go from temperature controlled box to another temperature, like in the city, like temperature control box to another temperature control box.
It's very comfortable.
Everything is comfortable, controlled. Pretty much most things are kind of in your control, or like a 30-second, 1 day away, like with Amazon and all that stuff.
Bro, Uber Eats. You're hungry? I'm just going to have food delivered to my door.
Yeah.
I don't even have to leave the couch. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's why these experiences are so valuable, and why
100%.
like for me, why I'm so passionate to share it with other people. And I'm sure you share that sentiment too. Like once you see what it does for you, you're like, I need everyone to know about this. You know?
Absolutely. I was just reflecting on it yesterday, where it's not a one place you need to make it to in terms of like making it to, I don't know, Wonderland or making it to this specific beach. It's nature, like it's everywhere. And so getting people out there for that immersive experience, it opens their eyes to the nature all around them and what's accessible. And then it also opens their eyes to like themselves. Like they get to come off autopilot, even for a few days, and understand themselves at a bit deeper of a level. And that is transformational. No matter what, it's so transferable to the world we live in. Like you were speaking about, that endorphin dump of triumph, of overcoming something you don't really remember. You'll laugh about it after. I've been on like the most intense portages. Like some people get bitten by bugs quite badly especially in bug season, like June and July. And especially if you venture off the beaten path. The one guy was like bitten quite badly, and not that it was life threatening at all, but just like
extremely uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, and like the way the bug bites react, it looks bad. And we finish, we get into the canoe, and he just bursts out in laughter, like just like, this is fucking nuts. But like, when can we do this again, kind of thing. And it's only day one, right? I think with effort comes experience. And then speaking to what you guys were both saying, is that we're in this unique time where, like our folks struggled, or our grandparents struggled. And so some people are like, why would you camp? That's hardship. But that's what we're missing in these times. Like that was part of day to day back in the day, where you had hardship, and that's what made you resilient. But because because all of our basic needs are taken care of, our brains are bargain shoppers. And so they're like, why are you putting
yourself in this situation?
Exactly. Why are you burning energy? Why are you doing all these things when like you got a roof, and so it doesn't understand how much we need that, and how much it's built into our DNA to move our bodies, to, be uncomfortable, to be not climate controlled. And so like, I think there's a brain body disconnect there. And so you get out there and you learn to adapt, you learn to problem solve, you learn to, put on a shirt or take off a shirt, or, I'm cold, make a fire, and you're doing it in a communal way.
Exactly. That's huge. That's the other one. The collaboration that takes place on those kind of trips is like, it's a level of collaboration you won't see anywhere else, because it's not that it's do or die, but it's a situation where you have to be cooperative with everyone. You can't just be, dead weight on a trip. Like you would really feel that if you were dragging the team back, you're really gonna feel that, because it's a different level of like dragging the team back.
100%.
Especially if you're in the forest and there's mosquitoes, or it's raining, or it's like we really need to get somewhere before the sun goes down. You really feel that. So I feel like anytime I go on one of those trips, like it's a new brotherhood has been created. Like those people will always get together, and we'll talk about the trip, and we'll laugh about the trip, and we'll be so much more closely bonded because we've struggled and overcome together.
Definitely. Sorry.
No, go.
I have a great story on that. Is I co-created and ran a men's trip a few years back. I joined the men's group basically right after. I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. But one of the men on the trip, very successful entrepreneur, we spoke about it after in our debrief, that he was extremely uncomfortable. He was totally outside of his element. And he was standing there on day one, looking around. He's like, I feel useless. I don't know what to do in any way. He's like, so he looked around. He's like, well, we're having a fire, so I'll start collecting firewood. So he's like, I just started collecting firewood, and then I felt like I was contributing. Fast forward, he came out with us. He hired myself to run a trip for him and some of his buddies. He wanted to like grab buddies from different areas of his life and like kind of get them exposed to this. And debrief after that trip, he said on day one, I'm looking for the lightest pack. We did a 5-day. By day 3, I'm grabbing whatever pack and just being like, if it's the heavy one, it's the heavy one. He said, by day 5, I'm looking for the heaviest pack. So
that's real transformation.
What does that say, you know?
Yeah, that's real transformation. Like, because I guess he started to believe himself, right? Over the 5 days. Day 1, not much belief in myself. I'm going to go for the light pack. Day 2, day 3, I'm just going to grab what I can. By day 5, it's like, I want to prove something to myself.
That's it. Yeah.
I
exactly.
want to show that I'm able to carry the heaviest pack and push through. And that's something I experience on almost every trip, where it's like, how far can I push myself into the discomfort? Because that's when you really learn about yourself. You enter new kind of rooms. Like, if your mind has a bunch of rooms, the closer you are in discomfort, the more new rooms you start to open up, and you see what's inside of there.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's I just came up with that. Nobody steal that. No. But yeah, that's what discomfort does for you. It really just takes you deeper into your mind, and the more deeper you go into your mind, the more you learn about yourself, the more comfortable you are with yourself, more confident you are, and then the more, I guess, you experience life, or you just take big leaps in life, and you get that excitement that you're looking for.
Because it also teaches you to trust yourself,
yes.
Right? Because so often in our society, you're always looking to other people for validation or to have your ideas, checked. Like, hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And you don't actually like take action before you test it out. Yeah. You ask a bunch of people, what do you think first?
Yeah.
But out there's no time for that shit. If it's raining and you need to collect firewood to get a fire going so you can eat, you're not asking anybody, yo, where do I look for wood? You're in a forest, go find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, because we had that too. Like, there was 8 of us. We did a men's trip a few months ago, and it was unspoken. Like, we didn't delegate tasks. It was just like everyone just started doing what needed to get done, because shit needs to get done. Like, you have to do this to survive. So just go do it. And we had that too. There were some people that were standing around because they didn't know, they had never been camping. They didn't know what to do. But then you're like, hey man, you want to help with this? Awesome. And as soon as they start helping, they feel like, oh shit, I can do this. And like, same, like, it's just, if you're up first, get the fire going, get everything ready. Cause everyone else is depending on having.
It's also enjoyable.
Yeah. But like, I enjoy it. I was up first. Love it. I enjoyed getting up at sunrise, getting the fire going, getting the water ready for coffee. Like, just like, I'm very hospitable. I was raised that way. It's just always like, so I'm just like sick. This is how I get to like contribute.
Yeah.
I was the barista all weekend. You know what I mean? At one point I had 8 coffees going at one time. Like,
that's
just
magic.
What I do. So it's just, it's nice in that regard. Like, you find your kind of thing, and you just do that. That's your contribution.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's unreal.
So I want to get into, cause you talk about going away a lot. I feel like you've done a lot of long journeys outside of Canada.
Definitely, yeah.
Europe, was Europe more like backpacking through Europe, or was that like nature? There was some nature aspects of it. My first time really spending time on the ocean. I did some interior of Switzerland, which was epic. Wow.
Those two, like the Greek waters, like really attached me to the ocean. And the mountains of Switzerland were insane
for sure.
And
then how about Vietnam?
Yeah.
Southeast Asia. I feel like that's where the crazy stories are at.
Yeah. I mean, they're all over, but Europe really taught me, like, we didn't plan anything.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we landed. I have family in Ireland, so we landed there. But beyond that, it was like, we're going to grab a Euro pass or Euro ticket for the train and just see what happens. And we just met people on the way, and they're like, you should go here, you should check this out. And our whole trip was planned based by just meeting people.
Wow.
Yeah. And that really, really made me see that, like, it's possible, you don't need to plan things. It'll work out. And I mean, there were some uncomfortable nights, a night in Paris where we couldn't find a place to stay, and we're considering sleeping on a park bench, and a hotel owner's like, we're full, but you can't do that. Like, you're either going to get mugged or arrested is what they said. I mean, I don't know. I might consider doing it now. Like, but I would probably just like hide in a bush or something. But this other hotel owner's like, go walk around for another hour or two. This is already at like 11 or 12 at night, and come back if you're really stuck. And he put us up in this like sweet room, like had an Eiffel Tower view.
No way.
But it was under construction. There was like, paint cans and everything. But he's like, there's a bed in a bathroom. I mean, we're a couple 19-year-old guys. We're like, yeah, perfect. We just need to crash out. So yeah, it was pure magic. Came home. I felt very shifted. And then, I went to university after that. Wasn't really feeling it. I really enjoyed my time, cultivated really great friends, lived away from home, learned how to like, fend for myself. But it wasn't until I took a year off and I got in a car accident. Actually, I was doing the firefighting route and I was refereeing high level hockey. I wanted to make it as that. That's a really good career pairing.
Yeah.
At the time, got in a car accident, something just changed. I'm like, I got to go to Australia. And so I booked a one-way ticket, planned to go for...
Wait, you just decided to go to Australia?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Car accident, immediate thought, I got to go to Australia.
Yeah.
Really?
Pretty much. I can't really explain it much better than that. Yeah. I was enrolled. I'd taken a year off, was enrolled. I transferred universities to Lakehead to become a teacher. And it was like just like a week before. And I was a treasurer of a referee association. I was heading out to teach a bunch of other referees, like new refs, like how to be a ref. And it was rainy and like I lost traction. Wow. I slid into the other lane and head on, car caught fire. The other person was fine and their dog, but like, I don't know, something just shifted and it was like, I just got to get away. Yeah. And so I booked a ticket to Australia and I planned to go for 6 months. I spoke to the ref chief, the fire chief. They're like, do your thing. Like your position will be here when you get back. When I say fire, I was in the volunteer field at that point, looking to start applying. I was gone for 2 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah. So all that refereeing fire, that's a chapter. It's part of my life, part of my experiences. And so traveling I was back on the road again, and I went there with 5K, and that's basically, they say that they might check your account to just make sure that you're going to be able to survive there. Working holiday visa, so you got a year to work there as a Canadian. And I went there and I spent 5K in a month. I had a friend there and him and his buddies were making good money. I had a friend that came with me and it was like their holidays. So we just like lived the
vacation
life. The high life. Yeah, exactly. And I remember I never really stressed about money, even though like I would get down low. I just kind of had to trust. And my buddy Scotty's like, Kelly, we gotta make some money. So we were offered a job in the west coast of Aussie, which is like the most remote major city in the world. Wow. And so like most people in the East never go to the West because it's cheaper to fly to like the South Pacific Islands, the Southeast Asia Islands. Yeah. I mean, you can almost get flights to like LA for within a few $100s. Yeah. So we booked our flight right before we're about to fly. We're broke, just finished like a week in Surfers Paradise, which is like the party capital of Australia. And the guy messaged me and he's like, very brief. He's like, hey mates, not going to hire you guys, going to hire local. Yeah. So I'm like, shit. And Scotty's like, fuck. And so we hop on a plane and the stories just continue from there. I met a girl on the plane. Scotty passed out. She put us up in her house like as soon as we got there, just for like a couple hours, just so that we could reach out to a bunch of hostels. All hostels were full except this sick one right on the beach. Lived the beach life for a while. I got into surf life saving. I started like waiter bartending. Road trips around Australia. So many different jobs, working from like driving tractors like on huge acreages, herding sheep. My brother flew out. We bought a 4x4, picking mangoes, painting, working on a pipeline.
Wow. Did everything.
Yeah. Making like $100 a day for 17 hours of work, and then working on a pipeline, making like $3,500 in like 2 weeks. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah. Shifts like that. And that's why I always empower people. if you have the time, just travel. Like,
Yeah.
do it, you know, because you don't know if that window is going to be there again.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty epic.
And it
Like-
teaches you so much, like just in the variety of jobs you did. You were learning so many life skills that you wouldn't learn in school.
Totally.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the resilience. I mean,
Exactly.
like,
That's what I
being
mean.
able to live in that uncertainty. I mean, that's huge. That's
Mhm.
huge for you.
The
Like,
school of hard knocks is like
Yeah.
you learn by doing. I think that's what we miss a lot of
mhm.
in our society. It's just like all practical. It's all theory.
Yeah, we learn a lot of theory.
So
It's all
much
theory. I went to
theory, yeah.
university. It's all theory.
Yeah.
None of it's practical.
No.
I learned more in the real
Of course.
world than I did in university. You know what I mean? It's so that I
That's a
think
big
traveling, that's the
disconnect,
thing that I think a lot of people miss is like, instead of, because you come out of high school and they force you right into college, university, you're still developing. You don't know what the hell you want to do.
Yeah, you're also taking out a $25,000, $30,000 loan.
Right.
Which
So
you
you're
can
all-
use for traveling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I think the route you took is the best route, is doing that. I regret not doing that myself, like going out and traveling and like getting that life experience early on.
Mhm.
Like I'm getting it now, but I think it would have been far more beneficial to do it
Yeah. And like
in
you
your
said,
like 20s
19,
instead of
20.
partying it all away,
Yeah.
going out and getting life experience and like, I need to hustle to like survive. I need to, it builds that resiliency and that drive in you. So I think that's incredible, man.
Thank
That's
you.
really cool.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. I'm stoked to hear that you're doing it. And just by, doing this podcast and what you guys are chatting about on it, I was like, I want to be on this. Like, I want to hang with these dudes. So yeah,
Awesome.
we all have our own past, but
Yeah.
that's why we share stories, and then you might not have lived my life, and I might not have lived yours, but just through osmosis of spending time together,
Mm.
you kind of get to transfer those experiences in
Yeah.
some regard.
And I like what you touched on too about like not making a plan, just going with the flow.
It's mandatory.
There's something different about it, because like normally, like I just went to California with my girlfriend, and normally I need to have everything planned. I need to know what we're doing, what the itinerary is, how long it's going to take to drive from point A to point. Like I like to map everything out so I know how to be the most efficient. But this time we kind of just had like a couple places like locked in to stay at, and everything else was just up in the air.
Mm.
We were just figuring it out.
I love it.
It was great. Honestly, like I knew things were going to work out. I was never really stressing about it, but it's just like a different feeling, because I thought it was going to be a lot more stressful, but really it's
a lot less
you're,
stressful.
it is. You're not worried about it. You're just like,
Mhm.
yeah, it'll work out. Like that. I always have that default. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a huge default.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just like, we'll be all right. And like you said, even if you have to sleep on a park bench or whatever, like you're in California, it's nice outside.
Totally.
You always
Yeah.
figure it out.
It's not a problem. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, but it all worked out, and it was great. That's the first time I've ever traveled like that, because it's always been like super strict itinerary. We have everything planned well in advance, and there's no like guesswork.
Mm.
But it's nice to just kind of go with the flow and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
There's something to that.
See how you feel each day.
Yeah.
Without having to commit to anything, right?
That's something
figuring-
special about that.
Yeah.
It's just like trusting and following that kind of intuition. What feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, then you feel safer in your own skin, because you know you can take care of yourself. You're not relying on anyone else or anything. This whole, when I get this or etc., then I'll be comfortable. I mean, just the sheer fact of having that default of everything's going to be all right makes you enjoy the journey. Because if you're like, it's going to take this long to get here, it's an expectation. And if anything falls short of it, you're frustrated, Whereas if you're like, it's going to work out, you're enjoying it, and it creates space and energy for moments to take place. And those moments of the in-between, and that the journey is the destination, makes life for me insanely more delicious.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. When was the first time you did like a solo trip, like an extended solo trip, like a few days?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
So yeah, I'm definitely a social creature, learning more about myself now that I do have hermit tendencies that need to be honored.
Yeah.
So it was in Vietnam. I was cruising around with 6 other dudes, all from different countries. So it was super awesome. And I only knew one of them that I had met in Aussie. and we had road trip together. And he messaged me. He's like, about to motorbike Vietnam, you keen? And I was like, give me the weekend. And I made it over. By that point, because I didn't know that in Vietnam, just so you know, that you need a visa upon arrival. So apply for it ahead of time. I got stuck in Singapore overnight. All worked out. I arrived, but just in those few days and him talking about it around the hostel, people were like, I'm in. And so it's so cool. You can just buy a motorbike there for, I mean, I paid $300 and I paid more than most of the guys.
Wow.
Yeah. So I pulled out 6 million dong out of my account at 11 o'clock upon arrival, and drove a motorcycle for basically the first time. I driven a dirt bike for like 20 minutes before, and when I was like 13, and I fell on it, but I'm like ripping down the back streets of Ho Chi Minh, buy this thing, get it tuned up, buy like an old military helmet as a helmet and like a little side bag. And yeah, so we cruised around for a while. I'd just come from Fiji, and though it was a super organic and soulful trip, it was still based around alcohol and partying in terms of the evening's activities. Lots of sport and diving and interactions with nature.
Yeah.
But there's something changing in me, and I was like, I don't want to party as much. And these guys weren't like big partiers, but it was still, let's have beers every night kind of thing. I mean, we're early 20s. Yeah. I started reading for the first time. It was this crazy book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I had like just enough about motorcycle maintenance that like kept me in tune. And it was more so like, hey, if you touch the side of your motorcycle and it's too hot, like that you have to pull your hand away, like take a break. So that got me to slow down and to get more in tune with the bike. It talked about like the vistas and like, don't take highways, don't take the secondary roads, don't take the third roads, like find the most random routes. And so it was all telling me exactly what I needed to hear to slow down and not have this like point A to point B mentality. And so about halfway through, they decided they wanted to push pretty hard to get to Laos, which was Laos is an amazing country from what I hear about, lots of jungle, like basically just one main road through it. But there's this one spot that people go tubing, a tourist mecca of, really party culture, hanging out, watching Seinfeld in the mornings, and like basically a puddle of people from all over the world and just like chilling, but then partying, and it just didn't call to me. And so I just said, I'm just gonna kick back. And it was a big move for me. I wanted to be around people. And so, I remember going to the market and I bought a machete, a tarp, a hammock, and a wool blanket. And it's not like I'm like Bear Grylls or like Survivor Man. Like, I did have some of the experiences growing up in the bush, but like I had only gone into Algonquin a couple times. I didn't grow up as like a big camper with my parents in regards of going like tenting. Like we would tent at like family reunions, and we would tent like I said, I'd go to that island a couple times or a handful of times, but it wasn't like my folks were explorers, you know? They just put me in that place to do that kind of stuff. And so this was all very new to me, but there's this, for whatever reason, there is this national park called Bac Ma, and it just called to me. And I want to explore it. And I started like looking on the internet, and that time, like no cell phones while traveling. And you'd go to these like gamer cafes and
internet cafe.
Exactly. It'd just be a bunch of kids gaming with headsets, and you'd have to like figure out what letters were which, because the keyboards would sometimes be different, but also they'd be worn out. And I found one post from like 3-4 months previous that a couple had said they had went to the gate and they were escorted up through this like 16-kilometer windy mountainous road to the summit, or close to the summit. And I was like, okay, so I can get there and I can get to the top, because otherwise it was closed. It said it was under renovations, etc. So I load up. I like load up on banana bread. They make really good buns there from the French influence. I always pack peanut butter, because no matter how I'm feeling, if I go back to bread and peanut butter, I get better. And Yeah, I just, instead of stopping at the gate, I just like blew through it. I don't know why, just feeling invincible. And I'm just going up this like windy road. I come across like some groups of construction workers that are building like, say, 30 by 30 foot sections of cement. They're cementing this whole road of 16 kilometers, like 30 feet by 30 feet at a time. And they have these little huts that are like hanging over. And they invited me in. I hung out, had lunch with them. There was like a lady and her son. And it was just really cool just hanging out with them. And they were chill. They didn't say like, you can't go that way.
Yeah.
Kept pushing. The next section, the guys like walked me around, and like I was making a bit of marks in the cement. And so like I probably still have like a little
nice.
left my mark.
Yeah.
I made it to the top and my machete was gone out of my bag. So now I'm like, did they take my machete? Did it drop? Because it was like kind of sticking outside of my side bag, but I was like, whatever. Started walking up this trail, and I hear people like kind of coming behind me. So I go up this like rugged staircase that's barely, like, the jungle has overgrown it, and I see these like two officers, some kind of authority coming, and I just like poke my head down and hide. And so I'm wearing this like military helmet, and legit, when I made it to the top, there's like a foxhole like from the war, Vietnam War there. Wow. And I'm like hiding, but I'm not like, I'm like looking to see them, and they're like, hey, like, what are you doing? Come down. And so I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And so I go down, and they just like walk me. We can't talk.
Yeah.
We can communicate a bit. We walk back to my bike, and I'm like, are they like escorting me down? And they're like, they didn't say you need to go down. And I just was like, oh, thank you. And then they took off, and I just went back and found this foxhole, explored it a bit. It went down like, say, 6 meters, and it was like a little room down there, like a little triangle room.
Wow.
Yeah. Left my stuff there, started exploring, found this temple on top of the hill, and huge bell again, like young man. I always think of things primally. It's like, big bell, what are you going to do? Ring it.
Yeah.
So grab this big wooden thing, like, boom. This monk comes out.
Wow.
And like pulls me, like waves me over. He's big temple, like side house kind of thing on the mountain. And we're just like looking out over this vista, and he grabs the back of my arm like this. And I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. I actually felt like present.
Yeah.
And we're looking out over there, and then I just saw this distant tower. And I was like, I want to go there. Like, kind of just like pointed to him, and then he like grabbed a piece of cement that had fallen off the side of his building, and he like carved a map on the side of his wall.
Wow.
And then pointed down, and there's a trail that you could just see as it tucked under into the jungle. And so I took off down that trail, and I ended up like a series of waterfalls, came to this like huge waterfall, hammocked at the end of it, like slept over top of this waterfall.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so sick. Next day I hiked down the waterfall, came back up, just cruised through, found like old like trenches from the war, found an old helicopter pad, did yoga on it, ended up sleeping in that foxhole that night. Went down the next day, so I spent like 3 days, 2 nights. And on the way down, I see these people. Once I made it back to like some form of like village, I see people chilling, and I like, that's the cool thing, is like, I just trusted my intuition we're talking about. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with them. Whereas when you're with a pack of people, it's different. So different. So you're starting to feel what yes and no feel like in your body.
Yeah.
And like, you can go there, and then if you're feeling like it's time to leave, you just leave. And so like learning social cues, learning energy, I go stop. They're like, you want some tea? I'm like, sure. The guy's got this big chain around his neck with this like claw or tooth on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? What is that? And he's like, I'm like, tiger, what? And like, we like kind of drew it out, and he's like, yeah, tiger. I'm like, where? And he just points right back up the hill I just came from. Yeah. So that was like the first one. I continued to cruise from there, really slow. Spent a lot of time with locals, stopped like if there's a volleyball game going on. I remember a lady got like, there was a collision, stopped like to help her. and just like really immerse myself in the culture. And I started to realize that we're all the same. We all have different experiences, and we're individualized in that way, but we all just have different vehicles. Like our bodies are vehicles. And so rather than seeing how other people interacted, like tourists interacted with locals and like treated them like not lesser or whatever, but just like they were different.
Yeah.
Just being like, hey, what are you doing there? How can I help or whatever? And like treating them like a friend, forgetting the language barrier and just like trying to communicate. Because if there's an intention to communicate, you will figure it out. And I just felt so alive again and so trusting in the universe, and felt like free to just go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then so there's a series of individual trips after that that spun out of it, but that was the
catalyst,
the Kickstarter. The catalyst. Yeah.
Wow, that's intense. How long were you in Vietnam, like altogether?
2 months. So it was 1 month solo, 1 month with the Saigon 7.
Wow, what the Saigon 7?
The Saigon 7.
That was our motorcycle gang. we were a tough bunch.
Saigon
That's
7
wild,
is
man.
is a tough name, man.
Yeah,
I would be scared.
Like 7 of us sharing, we'd like live on the cheap, so we'd get like a hotel for $20 and like 7 of us would be in there. Yeah, we just like crash out on the beds, whether sleep like sideways on queen beds, sleep on the floor, like but it was awesome because you're just getting to hang out with the boys, you know. It wasn't like I'll see you for dinner. It's like
no, you just
let's
living
just
together,
chill, you know, like having chats. It was so awesome.
And it's again back to that point, like when it's a little bit more rugged and difficult, it ends up being more rewarding.
It is.
It ends up being more rewarding when you're doing stuff like that, like 7 people in one hotel room. That's a memory you'll have forever.
Without question. Yeah.
If you were doing it luxury style, you probably would have a few nuggets here and there that you might remember, but nothing like that, I feel like, for sure.
Without question. Yeah. I feel like connection. That's like one of the things that I'm bringing into Driftwood, and my goals is when approaching everyone, but especially like the corporate world, is that I feel there's a lot of expectation around as they climb the corporate ladder or whatever, then it's like, you know, they get to go to different conferences with different name tags and different add-ons with nicer hotels. But ultimately, it's like you're still individualized in terms of you go back to your hotel. And so I want to create more experiences where like teams come out and you're sleeping in tents, and like you don't have your own tent, and you're all working towards a common goal. Even though one person's like head of marketing, one person's a financial officer, one person's a CEO, that you're all able to relate to like building a fire, and you're all able to relate to this rather than like focus on your specialties. And then my dream is to build my retreat center so that, you know, though it's comfortable and we're eating really good, etc., but that we're hanging together most of the time, whether it be like bunk bed style or like the yoga studio that everyone common space, everyone's like crashed out. And so then like you can laugh about the person snoring. You can, you see the person wake up early and head outside, and like maybe you go out and have that intimate conversation with them, or they start stretching, and there's just those opportunities for beautiful moments of connection and opportunities for connection with oneself, and like just seeing how other people live when they're not like formal, you know, the informal part of life.
That's sick. I want to hear a little bit more about like what are some of the craziest shifts you've seen in people when you take them out to the backcountry? Because how long have you now been taking people out to the backcountry, would you say?
I mean, professionally, for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, a decade.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe get into that. Like, what are some of the things you've seen, like from beginners or from like families or like young professionals? Like, get into that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for what I do, and I'm really realizing how impactful it is. I see myself, like, we call ourselves guides, and I really see that. I see that as that we're guiding people into nature, which is like into their true nature as well. And that so fortunate to have nature itself as a co-guide or a co-facilitator.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, it's wild, especially that I'm more open to it. Like, you pour energy into things and the universe starts telling you, like, supporting it if it's true. And so, like, even the most recent trip I took a good friend of mine, now a good friend of mine, I took him on a trip with that men's group that I was telling you about, the guy carrying heavier packs. It was one of his friends that came out, and he was just so appreciative of nature out there the whole time. He was like a child, like his inner child was just like beaming through.
Yeah.
Successful software engineer.
Yeah.
Family of 5. He's like, man, I got to do this with my family. Awesome, dude. Let's talk about it. Through the winter, he invited me down to his house. Got to meet his wife, got to meet his kids. I was there for a couple hours. We had dinner together. Just last week, we came off trip. His wife shows up. She's nervous. She's very forthcoming about it, which is awesome. She's like, I don't know. Why do we got to do 4 days? Like, because I sold them on the extra day, which I feel like an extra day is huge. Any time in nature is important, but I'm noticing the difference between 3 and 4 days
it's big.
Is huge.
Yeah.
It's almost like the body arrives on day 1, but like the soul or the relaxation doesn't really kick until you wake up after the second night.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people on 3 days, on the day they're going home, they're saying,
I need one more day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we're getting to the dock and they're saying, can we go back? Or do we have to?
Yeah.
Adults, moms, dads, children, everything. Or just in the morning, I just remember this British lady, she said, I think I could continue. I think I could continue going now. Like, as soon as she woke up, and like, you just see the shift in the person, like people that are very like, what are we doing now? All this stuff, which is so normal. Like, cause that's how our society is set up, like scheduling, to like just loving the slow, chilled pace. So this lady, she came on trip, Harmon. I hope you don't mind that I mentioned your name. Early on, she's nervous about it. The lake was a bit choppy, but like, I mean, nothing out of the normal, but new to her. We got into the river, and she's like, dude, you have a sick backyard. This is the first thing,
Which is true. You do have a sick backyard.
Yeah. And it's great to hear, to be honest with you, because I get to see my backyard through everyone else's eyes, which is so cool. From like, they had a 2-year-old on trip, and like just the way the 2-year-old sees everything. That's a whole nother story about kids in the backcountry, but I feel like parents think that they need to get used to it, where they're less removed from nature, as older people that we're more removed from nature, when you're born, you could be born into nature and just
live,
because you are nature, it's like we're being removed from it, being cyborgs, of like being so attached to technology, etc. But yeah, so that happened. Then we're on trip. She's like honest about, like, I didn't have a great sleep. The 2-year-old was crying the first night, but she's still so open to everything and really trying her best to like appreciate it. Like, she interact with the kids. Day three, she says, what you're doing is transformative on the cellular level. Is what she says to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. Like, I've heard people say transformational a couple with like in the last few years, and I'm like, it was hard for me to believe it at first.
Yeah.
Like, like believing that what I'm creating, and it's nature, right? But I'm starting to lean into my gifts, because if I don't acknowledge my gifts, then I don't get to give them away.
Yeah.
Right. So that was, I mean, it was amazing. Like, we spent time with the moose. I mean, a lot of great times, like collecting firewood with the kids, getting fires going. We did some cliff jumping with the kids, just low cliffs, but awesome. She got to watch it all. Like, yeah. And then one of the coolest moments was on the way out. I sent her and her husband and the youngest out first. I was like the last one to come with the middle child. And we get to the portage, and she's just standing at the portage with the youngest, with another mother holding the baby the same way. And it was just a beautiful image, right? Speaking to her after, I was like, tell me about like that lady and the interaction you had. She's like, she had been backcountrying her whole life, this lady, but was new to being a mother.
Yeah.
And Harmon, new to the backcountry, been a mother for a while.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about it in a way that, like, again, very primally, like Harmon had said, like, no, the lady had said, I noticed how you're holding the baby. Like, I'd like show me how to do that kind of thing. Wow. It's like, and then the baby calmed down, and then she said, like, I was really nervous in the backcountry, but it's not that bad and stuff. It was just incredible. Like
exchanging their gifts,
totally,
the knowledge that they have. She's a mom, she's a backcountry adventurer, and they're just like, their worlds just cross
exactly
at the portage.
Mm-hmm.
That's sick.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
The story of the heavy packs, that's transformational. Like, remember doing a fly in Temagami trip with 2 women. Me and my brother guided them, and the one she was the first one that said, like, these trips are transformational. I'm going to ride the subway differently. Yeah. And at first I'm like, what do you mean? But it's like, she's like, just by being out here and overcoming everything from the paddle to the portage to just like appreciating to slowing down, like, I'm going to look at things completely differently. And so that's when I really started to see, like, this is really great traveling with people and getting them to experience camping, but it's way deeper than just like teaching people how to camp. Like, it's transformational. It allows people to make changes. And something that I just heard is, if you change someone's day, you change their life.
That's true. It's 100% true. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah. And they're all changing my life too. So I'm like super stoked at the same time. Like, this is what I love to do. Yeah. And this is what's coming through. And that's why at the beginning I said, like, every day I'm like falling in love with it. And there's hard times, but like every relationship, and there's hard times. But it's all part of it. It's worth it. Yeah, the hard times make the good times. Yeah. I want to talk a bit about how we met, because it was to me it was really, really sick. So what is it now? 2023. So summer 2022, last summer, looking to do a portage with my friends, my cousin and one of my friends who's never been portaging before. So I'm like going to give him his first experience, which I was super stoked about. And we're looking to rent a canoe. I can't find a canoe anywhere. I find Driftwood Paddle. There's like a little bit of back and forth. And I was talking to Kieran, your brother, and I'm like, hey, it's 3 of us. Do you have a canoe? Eventually it's like, yeah, we do have a canoe for those dates. I was like, oh my God, perfect. We got a fucking canoe. Like, this trip was almost not going to happen. Day of comes, we get there, we meet Kieran, and it's like automatic connection. Like, automatic. We're just talking about the backwood and how much we love it and everything that Driftwood Paddle's about. And he showed us the space, and it was just like immediately the energy was right. And then we go out, we do our trip. Trip's amazing. My buddy has a great time. We come back out. Again, we're with Kieran. We're talking about like how he lives in the Yukon and all this stuff, and like what his vision are for the future, and what the vision of Driftwood Paddle is for the future. Like, and I just like the vibe so much. I end up buying one of your hats and just having one of the hats. I was like, this is such a sick company. Like, I want to support these guys. And then, I think about, like, in the back of my mind, I'd be like, it'd be amazing one day to do like a backcountry retreat. Like, just, like a throwaway thought. Like, oh, one day maybe I'll do a backcountry retreat. I end up following Kieran on Instagram, Driftwood Paddle, and you all right after that trip. And this is August 2022. Fast forward to the winter time. I'm doing the 100-day hydro, and we're getting deep into it. We're past day 50. You were there when this happened.
Yeah, I think it was. When did we do it with Beaches Hot Yoga? It was 50, no?
No. Past 50 was like,
oh shit, was that 75?
Yeah, it was like 75.
It was 75.
Like day 75.
Yeah.
Ari had come out to a few of the events, and he came out again to a group plunge that we were doing for the fundraiser. And he hits me afterwards. He's like, hey, where are you guys hanging? We're like, yo, we're at this coffee shop. We're hanging out.
Shout out Poured Coffee.
Yeah, shout out to Poured Coffee. And
best
shout out to Ari.
Cold brew in the city.
Yeah. And then Ari comes in, he's wearing a Driftwood Paddle shirt. And I'm like, hey, Driftwood Paddle, I love those guys. Like, this is like, hey, I'm going to meet one of the founders right after this. I was like, well, that's fucking amazing. I had a great time. I rented a canoe from them. Like, they were great. And honestly, I think nothing of it. And then I think maybe a week or 2 weeks goes by, and then you DM me. You're like, hey, let's go out for a plunge. I'm like, absolutely, that would be amazing. And then we just get to talking about doing a retreat, and then all of a sudden it's like all these synchronicities, and it's like, okay, now we're doing a retreat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was amazing. Like, to me, it was like, this is so full circle, because I vibed with Kieran right away. Then I meet you, and we're like hitting it off right away, and we're almost on the same page about almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And just this random thought that I had about doing a backcountry retreat, now it's like a reality.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like such a magical, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happened in an amazing fashion. And like, here we are a year later, basically, because we went last August, and now we're doing a podcast.
Podcast. You guys have retreats.
Yeah, we have retreats.
Plural. So let's get into the retreats. Tell people what you guys are planning.
Yeah.
What's the first one? What's the second one?
All right.
Let's get into it.
I'm excited. I'm very excited about the first retreat. It's going to be the Algonquin retreat, September 15, 16, 17. Soulscape. Beautiful.
That's what it's called.
It's called Soulscape.
Okay, so it's got a theme now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
okay,
Soulscape.
right.
We're really aiming to try to get people to connect to their soul, right? And I think the environment that Algonquin provides and the backcountry provides, especially in September, are like perfect. You don't have the bugs. You have this beautiful array of colors. You're in the backcountry, so it's super quiet. You get to actually be with your thoughts in a way that you wouldn't in any other environment. I've personally done a lot of hiking. I've done a lot of day trips. Nothing to me will ever touch the backcountry. I haven't done too many backcountry trips. Maybe I'm getting close to my 10th one now. I'm like 7 or 8.
Epic.
But honestly, they're like by far the most therapeutic thing I do. Even though there's struggle, even though, there's been times where I'm canoeing and I'm cramping up in the side, and I'm like, why the fuck? Why the fuck am I doing this?
Bro, canoes are flawed, man.
Yeah. Why the fuck am I doing this? But after the trip, it's always amazing. But, the way I've designed the itinerary is to it's like a crescendo, get people warmed up, and then you get them deeper and deeper into themselves. And then we're going to do a soft landing and get everyone back out of the park.
Okay. So what can people expect? Give us a little brief overview.
Okay. They can expect, Chris is going to be there, so they're going to learn a lot about the park for sure. I'm actually very excited to be able to hang out with you in the backcountry.
Likewise, dude.
Yeah. I think, even when I first went out, Kieran was just giving us a bunch of pointers about how to navigate and all this stuff. And I was like, man, it would be so awesome to go on a trip with someone like Kieran, because I'd be able to learn. Most of the time it's roughing it and figuring it out, which is great because you learn really valuable lessons like that. But it's going to be awesome to be with you, Chris, because I know that you're going to be able to point out things and show me how to do things much more efficiently. So people can expect, especially first timers, they can expect, I think, in terms of someone who's had to figure it out on their own, a really amazing first time experience and a lot of learning. So for me, I'm trying to target people who have never done it before, because I think it will open their eyes to a world that they didn't even know existed.
Okay.
That's a big part. I think learning how to canoe properly, how to set up camp, what to expect in the backcountry, because it's intimidating if you've never been there. They can expect some breath work. They can expect some cold plunges. They can expect some yoga. They can expect some meditation. They can expect epic sunrises, epic fall colors. The list goes on and on and on. If you're someone who's feeling I'm always amped up. I know a lot of people feel I felt that before, where I always feel like the energy is so high and my thoughts are really loud. This is one of those things where you're going to feel super down regulated, just by nature of the trip, and then the magic of the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Triumph and tranquility.
Yeah. Triumph and tranquility.
I love that.
That is great.
So it's very wellness focused. It's all about getting going inward.
Yeah.
And getting closer to yourself.
Yes.
In the community, but closer to yourself. So really tapping into that. Now, follow-up question. Camping can be complicated. A lot of gear, a lot of expenses. What do people need?
Yeah, that's the sweet thing, is it's very it's very beginner friendly. We send you a packing list, and basically you just need to bring your clothes. You might need to head over to Mac or Decathlon and grab a few pieces, like, you know, some cozy thermals, which are always useful. But otherwise, we're setting you up with top of the line bags, sleeping mats, tents, canoes. We're bringing all the kitchen gear, all the packs. You can bring your stuff in whatever you want. You bring your stuff in a garbage bag. And we transfer it together. So you're going to learn how to pack out into stuff sacks. So yeah, bring it in a duffel bag, a backpack, a suitcase. We transfer it over, and it's safe, dry, and it's with us. And so you're basically just showing up with your weekend bag, and we're taking care of the rest. Food menu, all that's taken care of. We're meeting dietary needs. You're going to learn a lot. Basically, I find that whatever you need, you get out of the trip, you know? And so, yeah, you're going inward, and you're exploring outward. I think like it's relationally. So by exploring on the external plane into nature, you're also exploring on the internal plane. Like all those things, like you can look at, like, you know, learning balance, like balance in a boat, balance in walking trails. You're learning like balance within your life. Being out there with other people that have already set the intention, like, I want to explore, I want to try something new, I want to go on an adventure. It just sets you up for an amazing experience with a bunch of people from all different walks of life, but that want this for themselves, you know, that want to connect. What's been coming through lately is connection to themselves, connection to nature, and connection to the collective. And that's what you will get on a trip like this trip.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How many spots are available for this one?
14 spots.
14? How many are left?
14 spots.
Yeah. This is one of our intentions for this podcast is to get the word out, you know? Yeah, I know once people start hopping on that it'll fill up. I have a yoga trip that we were just able to get the word out in a different way. And so that one's full. So yeah, this trip is going to be powerful. And I think Soulscape is the perfect name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exploring the Soulscape.
September
15, 16, and 17 are the dates.
So it's about a month and a half away.
Yeah. And they're prime dates. That's another thing about the dates that we chose, is like someone who's wanted to go to Algonquin in the fall for like 2 years. It's very hard to actually.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You got to book that shit like a year in advance.
Exactly. It's one of those harder things to get, because again, those fall colors are stunning. Like people come from the States up to Algonquin.
Around the world.
Around the world to see Algonquin.
Unparalleled.
Yeah. It's and just like remembering how epic our province is, but then Algonquin, I think sometimes we forget how cool it is. Like, let's go overseas, let's go out west. It's like Algonquin is a series of connected lakes, which is rare in itself, that you can navigate from one to the next to the next. The Shield is some of the oldest rock in the world, with a beautiful forest on top of it. Like, you dig down anywhere in the forest, first off, it's like so cushiony to walk on. You dig down, you hit like a foot of soil maybe, and then you're hitting rock. So that's not many years. Like, you know, leaves every year stack up. Yeah. We're talking like a few hundred years that it's even had
a foot of soil,
you know, like, or maybe a bit more. I'm not a geologist, but it's just such a unique time that we're able to like navigate basically billion-year-old mountains, you know? Like I was looking up geology dates, and it's like out west is like 250 million years old, the mountains, where these ones are like 3-point-something billion. So it's like, if you think of like mountains worn down, like I love hiking out west, and I look at lakes, and some of them you get down to and take a swim, but ultimately they're you can't get to them. And they're freezing cold. We're like, you're getting to just travel through these mountainous lakes in this like old school mountain range. Like Algonquin is raised up. And it's an aquifer to Ontario. Like it's such a gem. Such a gem.
Yeah, I think that's another big point for me, especially for the Algonquin trip, is to show people Ontario.
Yeah.
You know, like this is just available to you 4-hour drive away.
Totally.
And if you're able and willing to learn the skills of backcountry camping and willing to invest a little bit in the gear, like you have access to this amazing park pretty much anytime you feel like getting away. Like you don't have to go to the Caribbean. You don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to hop on a jet, 4-hour car ride away. You're going to get some of the most satisfying experiences in your life, which is another thing I feel like a lot of people in the city kind of forget, that there's stuff outside of the city. They feel like they need to fly away from here to get to Tulum or to Mexico or to Europe so that they can reset. But it's like, it's right here, man. It's right in your backyard.
It's in his backyard.
Yeah, it's in Chris's backyard.
Chris's backyard.
You go to Chris's backyard, you have a great time.
Come have a barbecue. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And if come out, you're going to gain skills. And whether that gets you like exploring the city parks at a different level, gets you out on the water on Lake Ontario with more comfort. But like you were saying, the dream for us and what we've been seeing happening is people coming on trip with like a guided trip and then bringing their friends on trip or bringing their family on trip. And ultimately, and it's happened more and more now, is that eventually now we're just outfitting them, you know?
Yeah.
Now they're coming through, they're saying hi, we're setting them up with boats and gear, and they're taking their friends out and they're guiding their friends. And it's not that crazy. Like, again, you don't have to be Bear Grylls. I have an amazing story. We got a call from during COVID. Like that's when we started outfitting because everyone was camping. Yeah. And we were just guiding and people just kept calling, are you renting? Are you renting? And we're like, we might as well rent.
Yeah.
And what we've gained from rentals has been amazing. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One person. So this company called like a city-based adventure company that, you know, doesn't have a brick and mortar place, but just like hires everything, right? And rents a whole boatload of boats off us, but says, hey, there's this girl that's been calling us. She wants to do a trip. She's got a fixed budget. It's her 30th birthday, September long weekend. Can you help her? And I'm like, give me her number. Let me just chat with her. So I chat with her. We figure it out. And I take her out just a one-on-one because we didn't have a trip going out. And she's a refugee from Rwanda who got out through like Waterloo University. She got certain grades that she could go to Waterloo first year in Dubai and then to Waterloo. But she's here by herself. She told me about the genocide, that like what her personal experiences were. Like, you know, like your neighbors are just like your friends, and all of a sudden, because they're of the different
they're your enemies.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
And so then you want to kill each other, like this kind of thing. Like wild, couldn't even imagine. So she's out, she's feeling lonely, like successful in her job, but like wanting something more. We go out on trip. We have like, she's shaky getting into the boat. She's very green.
Yeah.
By day 2, she's portaging. By the end of day 2, she's sterning the boat. By day 3, she's doing it all. Fast forward a year later, she comes back, goes in by herself.
Wow.
For a 3-day weekend.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's all possible. It's the mind, right? The mind is the limiter. But Kieran and I are so down to teach you. We're not looking for reoccurring business in terms of, you know, like continuing to guide people. It's like we want to empower you, and it'd be awesome if you pass through, even if you had all your own gear, come through. We want to hear stories. We want to like grow with people.
Yeah.
We want to be inspired by other stories. We just want this energy. And so if that's the gift that we're here to give, like that's
an
what we're
amazing
stoked
story.
about.
That's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful gift.
Thank
You're just
you.
sharing your
I'm pumped.
love and your appreciation for what you have and the gifts you've collected, and it's translating.
Mhm.
You know, it speaks to people.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now, I want to touch on
The second treat.
the retreats. It's
Yeah,
part of
hit
it.
them
So
with the S.
we
The second retreat is also
we've been
magic, man.
we've been talking about it.
It's magical. I mean,
What is
both of
it?
them are magical. The second one is super magical. I feel like it's another one of those things where it was just like a random thought. Like literally after I met Kieran, He's like, oh, I live in the Yukon half the year. I was like, man, it would be so dope to go to the Yukon. Like, I want to go to the Yukon. Like, because he's talking about going dog sledding and doing all this stuff up there. I'm like, that sounds so sick. Like, he spent 6 months there, 6 months here. That's the life, you know? So it's another one of those, like, I had that random, like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like a feeling in your body and your mind that, you know, it's like something's calling.
It's a download. The universal consciousness. You pulled it from the ether, man.
Yeah.
It came to you, and by thinking and giving it life, you've created it. That's
I mean,
bam.
That's what it feels like, right? Like, it's just one of those things. Like, I know I'm going to go to the Yukon. I don't know when. I don't know how.
You're tuned in.
I don't know what for.
Found it.
That's it.
I don't know what for, but I'm going to go to the Yukon. And then, I don't know what it was. It was like, when did we, like, it happened super quick, but it was like a month and a half ago. I don't know, Ryan. Remember when I just started like looking up packages to go up to the Yukon?
Yeah, you hit me like, it's probably like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. You're like, yo, Yukon, Northern Lights. You down? I'm like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
No, I was just looking at packages online, looking at like how much it would cost to go and stuff. And then I knew Kieran had lived up in the Yukon. So we were on the phone together and I was like, hey man, like I just have this idea. Going to the Yukon and stuff. Like, what do you think? You're like, that sounds amazing. Like, that sounds amazing. And also talking to Mario, he was like also talking to me about, okay, I want to do more trips. Like, I want to guide people through hikes and stuff because he was doing that pre-COVID. So, you know, I talked to you, you're down. I talked to Mario, you're down. Literally the next day we're on a call together and we're like, hey, this is like, let's kind of start mapping this out. And it all just came together, I think within like, it's been less than a month.
Yeah.
I think since that phone call.
Yeah.
So it's also another one of those things that's just like everything fell into place, which I find to be like, that means I'm doing the right thing kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the right place with the right people doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about it. Just mostly because of the way, I mean, the Yukon's going to be beautiful, but mostly because of how it came about. I think that's a really important part of the story that I want people to know about is like, none of this feels forced. It really feels like it's just getting handed to me, which I love. But yeah, Yukon. So,
but also I think like, cause you were looking at packages and other like companies doing this shit and like, hey, terrible customer service because they never get back to you when you're trying to book something, which is horrible. But also I think you guys are taking a unique approach to it and offering a lot of unique experiences while there because all the other ones are very generic, basic.
Yeah.
It's all about the Northern Lights and that's it. You go look at the sky. Great. Awesome. Go home.
Yeah.
But this is a lot more integration into the culture, into the experience of what it's like
immersive.
to be. It's immersive.
It's a very immersive experience.
Do we have a name for this one?
Northern Lights.
Yeah. Yeah. The Yukon Northern Lights retreat.
Northern Lights retreat. Okay.
Yeah.
So still a part of it, looking up at the sky. It's beautiful, obviously.
Yeah.
But what else are you guys doing to differentiate and tap into the Yukon?
Wow. That's a good question. I think a big differentiator is that we're going to be staying up in a ranch outside of Whitehorse versus a lot of people will, the way they'll do the Northern Lights retreats is they'll stay in a hotel in Whitehorse and then every night you'll go out to see it versus us. We're staying about 25 minutes out at Sky
High Wilderness Ranch.
Sky High Wilderness Ranch, which is a beautiful property. It's nestled in the mountains. So you're going to be in the mountains the whole time you're there. So fully immersed in the nature. There's going to be horses on the ranch. The dogs are going to be living with us on the ranch. So this is like, you're in it. You're getting that real Yukon experience. Of course, we've incorporated all the wellness modalities that we could. The meditation, the breath work, mindfulness, cold plunging, all going to be taking place up there. Guided hikes, dog sledding. We're going to be able to maybe learn some culture for some elders. We're still trying to get that sorted out, but trying to get in touch with some of the indigenous tribes and having them come and talk to us about the land and the culture and the history there. Just to give people like a full kind of experience where they're going to leave the Yukon feeling like they were really in the Yukon, right? Like not just a visitor, but almost like part of the land.
It's more than just like a tourist trip. Like you're going to actually experience it and live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from it. Because you
it's
can go
very
visit a
communal.
place, stay in a nice hotel, go to a cafe, nice restaurant, whatever, but you're not really taking in the culture.
Yeah.
This is a way to actually take in the culture and the experience of the Yukon.
Yeah. And I think we also decided on that ranch because it's very communal living. So like people will be bunking with each other. It's not going to be like, come for an activity, go back to your room, come for an activity, go back to your room. It's going to be like, we're going to be with each other the entire time, which I think creates the kind of environment to have deeper human connection, because that's another huge like mental health booster, right? Like
100%.
a lot of times people feel like they're on a journey by themselves, and that's when they go down that dark path in their mind where they think that all the negative things that they're experiencing in life or in their own mind are exclusive to them. But being in like a communal environment, you start to talk to people, and then you open up inevitably, especially on a trip like this, which is designed to help people open up, help people tap in. And we are holding space for people to do that specifically. You get those deeper human connections, and those are refreshing. Like, have you ever had a conversation where you feel like, I don't know, you took like a 20-hour sleep? You just feel like you just woke up from a 20-hour sleep.
Totally.
Because you've had like a conversation with someone where you're connecting at such a level where you feel like, wow, like it's magical, and you walk away from it feeling refreshed.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of what's going to happen with this communal style living. Is like, at first, I know for sure people are going to be a little bit like
Maybe.
space. And then slowly but surely they'll be very, very close to the point where it's a bond.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be meeting up for dinners in the city.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be connections formed that'll last a lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of group activities.
Definitely.
It's very, I guess, centered around the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
Some would say community is underrated. I would agree.
Yeah.
So it's okay. That sounds like a really interesting experience. Now, you mentioned cold plunging. Is there also saunas? Because the Yukon's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I speaking to this?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a glacial river running right through the property. And so that'll be our cold plunge spot.
Amazing.
And there's a wood-fired sauna that we can just have pumping. Yeah, we are in a wilderness ranch. There's also the use of like a nice size yurt for in the evenings for us to do that breath work, those communal activities, those connections. I mean, with the collection of skills that the four of us bring to the table, there's like authentic relating, yoga, all sorts of stuff. Like it's good. It's going to be very communal.
Yeah.
I think one of the, beyond the fact of us all four of us being so open and different and excited for this trip is the fact that Kieran has had so much experience up there.
Yeah.
And so he knows, I mean, he's managed a guiding company up there. He knows what people love. He knows what the best is because he's traveled himself. And so he knows when his friends come out there, or when like my mom went out there, he knows what to do to maximize the time. And so, opting for that full day dog sled where, you're having lunch on the trail, you're pushing further, you're getting into like deeper nature, and you're pushing your comfort zone a bit more. You come back, you're like, what was that? That was insane. I was just dog sledding with this team of dogs. I don't want to, like, those dogs are my friends now,
Yeah.
like, cause you're not just like sitting in a dog sled, you have your own team and you're on the back of it. And you're like, when you're going uphill, you're like running with the dogs uphill,
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I don't want to use that word. It's magnificent. Yeah. And
It is.
It really is. Yeah. He knows like Fiddle Night. Fiddle Night is like a really fun night. I might be giving away some of the stuff.
Save some of it. Save
Yeah.
some of it. But basically what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is, it's the local experience. Like for someone who lives there, you're getting that, like, it's different when you go to a city and you're just hiring some like random tour guide who takes you to all like the popular whatever, as opposed to having someone who lives there giving you their insights into what you should do and see.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because it's two very different things.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm hearing is it's like that authentic experience of the Yukon from someone that has spent time there, lives there. And that's something special. Now, who is this retreat geared towards? Because Algonquins, you're gearing it towards like beginners, people who just want to get a taste of the backcountry, but the Yukon's a bit different than that. So who are you trying to attract for this one?
I mean, a lot busy professionals. I feel like like I feel like anyone can get value out of this trip. It's I want to say is it 5 days? 6 days? 7 days.
Yeah.
It's a 7-day trip. And I believe 5 of those are up at the ranch. 2 of them would be in Whitehorse, and the ranch is totally disconnected. Like no Wi-Fi, no cell phone service. So 5 days, you're being a human. Like it's no cyborg.
Yeah.
You're 100% human for 5 days. Right? Like you're just
human
there.
being instead of human doing.
Yeah, you're being a human being for 5 days. I mean, the people I would like to see come to this. I mean, mostly anyone. I think a lot of the people I hang out with who are busy corporate professionals or are like people who are high achieving and have never had a moment to themselves. I think this is kind of one of those things that will really bring you into nature because this is like super immersive. Like you're talking about a ranch where you could step out of your cabin and look up and the whole sky will be dancing, like green, yellow, purple, all the colors you can imagine up there, right? So, and for the people who have expressed interest, like just from word of mouth and people I've spoken to, are those kind of people who have been super busy, super successful, gotten to the point where they're feeling burnt out. And when I tell them about this, they're like, whoa, like that sounds like it's something for me, for sure. I don't think it would be as family orientated, but I don't see why a family couldn't do it, for sure.
So my question, like experience level, do you have to have experience in kind of backcountry living or the cold? Let's say, I know we're Canadian, so it's whatever, but what are temperatures like up there?
I mean, it is much further north, but like it's a dry cold. We still get minus 30, minus 35 here. You get that up there. It's but the temperatures fluctuate. It's a dry cold, so you dress for it. You're not getting involved. I mean, it can warm up, but for the most part, you're not getting involved in that like wet, soupy snow that's like sticks to everything. It's like it's that powder. You just dress for it. You know, you're never.
I think just winter dress. I was looking up the temperatures the January that passed because we're planning to do it for January 20 to 27th. It was lows of minus 14, highs of like plus 4. So it's not as freezing cold as a lot of people would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't really need any experience in that.
No.
Okay.
You don't really need any experience. I mean,
so literally anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. And that's the whole purpose of myself, Chris, Kieran, and Mario being there is like we bring our experience. And I think together, like I feel very confident in making people comfortable in doing breath work and hopping into cold water, even with zero experience. And I feel like that, you know, it might sound crazy. That might be the best place to do your first one because when you do it up there, you're going to be like, I can do this anywhere kind of deal.
Man.
Right.
And with the view won't hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
The view and the company.
Yeah.
And with that kind of community and having everyone around you doing it too, it'll give you that confidence to kind of take that practice and run with it, which is what I really hope people do. But yeah, I don't think any experience is required. I think you need to be in like somewhat decent shape. You can't be totally out of shape.
Well, I imagine dog sledding is demanding.
Yeah.
Dog sledding,
so you
hiking.
have to have some sort of athletic ability.
Yeah.
A bit. Like my mom's 65
Yeah.
and she goes for walks with her friends a few times a week. And I mean, she goes up north, but she did it by herself. And so you do have to
like decent shape.
Yeah. You have to be mobile.
Yeah. But like you don't have to be an athlete.
Yeah.
For sure. Like definitely geared towards the average person who's looking to really deepen their connection with nature, I think, too, and with themselves. It's like the same kind of concept with Algonquin. Just one is just a lot more grandiose, I would say.
Well, like, I mean, and the Northern Lights, right? Like how many people have actually seen them firsthand?
Yeah.
Very few.
Very hard to see. And that's why we're going all the way up to Whitehorse, because it really just it doesn't guarantee it, but it makes the chances of it happening like super high versus in Ontario where it's like good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed in Tobermory a couple weeks back, but they were very faint.
Yeah.
My heart tells me that we're going to see them every single night and they're going to be out of this world amazing. Like that's what I think is going to happen. But yeah,
you can even see them on the flight in.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Like you can be landing and like,
in the night.
You look out the window and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, just seeing the videos is amazing. I can't imagine what it's like to stand under a sky that's changing colors at that pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whitehorse is also like such a cool town. I
Yeah.
went up there for 6 weeks a few years back, and I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. Really open-minded, progressive town. Just beautiful all
Yeah.
around. You got to think it's like 30,000 people in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, very outdoor minded, very artsy. It's a cool town. And then yeah, Kieran's worked for Sky High and worked alongside them, and they're such a amazing company, very mindful of the dogs. Like that's the one thing she did say is like make sure that people are mobile and stuff, because like the dogs will have to work harder otherwise. Like
Yeah.
you need to jump off and work with them. You're part of a team
Wow.
when you join. So like
That's amazing.
she's so conscious of that, and you really spend time with them. And my hope is that, you know, we can spend time before with the dogs before we load up, and also after, just doing getting that full experience with them. We're also planning on going to a wildlife sanctuary, which is so cool. You know, they're taking care of animals that probably wouldn't survive in the wild just due to injury, etc. The hot springs,
Yeah.
amazing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some.
I mean, the Yukon is, Kieran said, it's the next Banff. Like it's
Okay.
just one of those places that it's like not many people have discovered how beautiful it is yet.
Mhm.
But for sure, in the next couple of years, you'll hear a lot more about people going up there.
Amazing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also the price point, Kieran with his connections has been able to make it like quite affordable.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge bonus with this trip.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we'll be able to do it at this price in the future, just because of his connections.
Yeah. And then things keep getting more expensive. I think the price that we're putting for 7-day trip is pretty
Huge,
reasonable. Yeah.
And the owner again of Sky High is so excited
Yeah.
about it. It's
Oh,
not
that's
like,
amazing.
It's not like, oh, like, you know, figure your stuff out. We're so busy.
Yeah.
Like she's like, we're busy. Book. I'm so excited to host you. You know,
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah. Like,
Which is gonna make it that much better.
yeah,
You know.
she's like a really good friend to Kieran, and then also like a second mother almost. You know, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's just to be hosting it doesn't feel salesy at all. Like, let's put together this perfect package. It's just like, if you have the time and the resources, like you should be on this trip. You know, if adventure calls you, you should be on this trip.
Yeah.
If you're looking to create community and connect, you should be on this trip.
Yeah. I mean, for like, what I would say is like, this is just something I would do. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like,
Right.
It's not even something that I feel like I would have to sell to someone. I was like,
No.
this is what I would do.
Yeah.
I would go up there and I would do all these things, and it would be the best time of my life. Like, it's just me sharing what I love to do.
Exactly.
And it's something that has been so healing for me.
Mhm.
Like, spending time in nature has been such a healing part of my life. You know, just going into my childhood and like being a child of immigrants and adapting to the Western lifestyle by being raised in like with Eastern values, and just having all this kind of like pressure on me when I was younger. I felt like it all started slowly alleviating when I was like, okay, I'm going to connect to nature more. And it like, you would go in and then, you know, it's like, I know it sounds like hippy dippy, but like the trees would talk to you and the water's talking to you and the animals are talking to you. And it's all just, you know, I almost feel like it just reaches into my heart and just pulls stuff out of it, and it just throws it into the forest forever. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
Dude.
that's how I feel like when I'm immersing myself in those kind of experiences.
Yeah.
And that's why I just like, I get so excited when I'm telling people about it. I'm like, you have to do this. Like, I know a lot of people who have never immersed themselves like that see it as like why are you doing that? Like, you're not going to shower, like stuff like that, you know, like that's the most minor inconveniences are like, why would you do that? But once you do it, you're like, why wouldn't you do that?
Totally.
Right. Like, why wouldn't you do that? It's just one of those, like, the magic of life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one of those things where it's like, this is just magic.
Yeah.
I can't explain it to you, but
It has to be experienced.
This has to be experienced.
Yeah.
And I've never ever taken someone out into nature or into the backcountry and they come out and be like, you know, fuck that. I'm not doing that ever again.
Seriously.
They're more so like, wow, I can't believe I did that, and I can't wait to come back and do it again and apply what I've learned from this trip. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Chris, for you, I have a question.
Go for it.
What's one way in which you think nature is underrated?
Ooh, great question.
Yeah.
I feel that it, I mean, you nailed it on like just how it just opens you up. Something I've been sitting with lately is that I feel like stepping into the forest is like stepping back into our true nature. And so taking that time and cultivating that practice of being able to step outside the bubble, outside the walls, whatever, outside the box, outside the comfort zone, and expand it and just like be at peace with oneself. I think that nature facilitates it. Like, you know, sometimes it may be hard for people to start to meditate or whatever, whereas like going into nature invokes this feeling of awe and wonder, invokes this feeling of gratitude, appreciation that is cultivated through meditation. It is cultivated through yoga, all these other disciplines that might be not of interest, where when you're in nature, you can't help but feel alive. There's a good quote. It's like, if you hold life, then life will hold you. And so I think of it as like, you know, when you climb a tree, you have to hold on to the tree, but the tree is supporting you, but you have to like, you still have to like support yourself. And so going into nature is like that act of like, I'm supporting myself. And then nature's like, okay, well, I'm going to support you as a result. And so my big push and focus now is I mean, if you can stack it, if you can go into nature and then also focus on yourself in nature, like get more present, etc., it's super potent. And you come back, like you're saying, after that conversation where you're feeling like you've had a lot of sleep, like a 48-hour time in nature. I tell all my clients, there's no time where we're going.
Yeah, it's
right?
so true.
If you want, if this trip could feel like 2 weeks, this trip could feel like 30 therapy sessions. This trip could feel like you know your family for 5 years more, you know, because time is just so that we can make it to an appointment. Is just so that we can fit stuff into a day.
Yeah.
But like, if I tell you that you could have 5 of your top 10 favorite moments of the year in 48 hours,
yeah,
then like, what's the value of that? Like,
wow.
So throw the watch aside. It's a portal. It's a portal, and it's natural. It's our natural state. You know, we are nature.
Yeah.
So it's coming home.
Yeah. That's a great answer. And I think with that, we can wrap this episode up. What an amazing chat. This is one of those conversations. I feel like I slept for 20 hours. Yeah. Not to say it was boring.
I slept for 20 hours and I had like 20 cups of coffee. I'm like buzzing.
This is that flow state.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
It really feels like that. I mean, thank you, Chris, so much for coming. It's amazing. And I'm very excited for what the future has in store. I think it's going to be like magic. Yeah. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode. Please like, share, subscribe, follow. If you need any more information on the retreats, you can check it out at www.driftwoodpaddle.com. And you can also check the links on my Instagram page. And you can find Chris on Instagram as Your True Nature Guide. We'll link that all in the description. But yeah, thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much for having me, Hassan. Rye.
Thank you.
Those are beauties. Love this. Love and life.
Love it.
Peace, guys.